Thanks everyone for coming. This is our first event of the year of 2021, and I believe it's our third event online. And I imagine we're going to be online for a little bit more. So thanks for joining us. I think we're just gonna get into it. So we've got Golnoosh, Carlos, Coldenia, Ed Luca, and then there's a break. And then we've got Fran Lock, Emma Gomis, and Oscar Guardiola-Rivera. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Golnoosh. Dr. Golnoosh Nour is the author of The Ministry of Guidance. Her writing has appeared in publications such as Granta. Golnoosh is the co-editor of Magma 80 and Queer Life, Queer Love. Golnoosh, take it away.
I'm just going to read 3 poems from my new unpublished poetry collection titled Rock Song. And the first poem I'm going to read is called Ritual. Ritual. Another fucking Sunday when there is no fuck but endless arguments about unfucked fuckers. Another Sunday when I bathe in a white well and pretend I'm clean. So clean I'm almost chaste like a fat virgin. So clean I lick my skin in search of a floral scent that would make me dizzy. Another Sunday when I stifle yet another scream. Even my white noise is onyx. I am dripping with words and this makes me a bitch. I wear my shrieks like a dagger under my garments. I tease my skin with the blade and slumber, but the Sunday chamber is the loudest place to sleep in. I wake up and my sweat smells like pickled aubergine, so strong that the neighbors call the police. But there is always featherless hope, a way out the path to obsidian peace. If I take out the blade from underneath my skin, if I find a cobalt vein and cut it deep, if my black blood pours out like acid rain in spring, these Sundays will end and there will be peace. And the second poem I'm going to read is called Psychosis. My fingers press around your throat. Your cup gets hard. I have been hard for you for months. We have dreamed of this so many times we can't believe it's happening now. We are 2 boys together, giggling and teenaged, 2 women, raging and throbbing. Whatever this is, it is not heterosexual. Why can't I just shut up and not intellectualize? Why can't I accept my clit trembles every time my sinful eyes fall upon a beautiful boy like you? You who could be anyone, and I am never satisfied. Greed is my oxygen and I feel sick with desire and outrage all the time. And when I visit the doctors, I pray they prescribe suicide boys, guns, and other drugs, but they don't know anything. I don't need therapy. I need to scream and scratch myself and your skin. Oh, your soft skin that melts under my tongue as you beg me not to ever stop. This must be self-murder as I feel dead afterwards. This is not euphoria, darling. I am psychotic. I don't even know what I'm doing. I am tired of being in love with my mother. I am tired of her undying death. I am tired of the illness she concealed. I am tired of her divine disapproval. I am tired of the family she left behind. I am sick of being loved, looked after, scarred, and treaded upon. You, mysterious passerby, delicate porcelain boy, dragging a suitcase exploding with scandal and drama, stroking my skin with your lithe fingers. You let me enter you. You don't get it, but you do. It's all in the eyes and the fists and the betrayals and our sexy traumas. It's all in our scandalized bodies. You slut, why are you prettier than me? I ask you joyously, jealously, impulsively. You chuckle. You are so certain of your physicality that you know your strongest moments are when you belongs to you. And maybe it does. It never belonged to me and it never will. And it's true, I can be calm. And the final poem I'm going to read is actually my newest poem, like I wrote it basically a few nights ago. And it's called The Cruelty of Impatience. Waiting for my girlfriend to come to me, waiting for my girlfriend to come for me, waiting for my girlfriend to laugh at me so I can weep, waiting for my test results to rescue me, waiting for my boyfriend to put on his lipstick and suck me, waiting for my boyfriend to don his dress and leave, waiting for my country to let me exist, waiting for any country to let me exist, waiting for my employers to pay me, waiting for socialism to breathe, waiting for my wounds to heal, waiting for my relatives to ignore me, waiting for my parents to spoil me, waiting for my siblings to admit, waiting for my friends to vanish so I can write an award-winning elegy, waiting for my lovers to tell me I'm their one and only as I leave, waiting for my favorite writers to read me, waiting for my favorite writers to ravish me, waiting for my publishers to prioritize me, waiting for my critics to patronize me, waiting for my worst to transcend mediocrity, waiting for the rain to drown me, for the storm to assault me, for spring to come clean, for the moon to bleed, for the autumn to revive me, for the trees to fall on me, waiting for myself to reach me. Thank you.
Please unmute yourself and make a collective racket for Golnoosh Nour.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
That was fierce. That was brilliant.
Next up, we're going to have Carlos Mauricio Rojas. Carlos Mauricio Rojas is a British Welsh Colombian poet based in London. They are a recipient of the Invisible Presence Program for British and Latinx Poets and Writers 2018. Carlos is a co-founder of Maracumbia, a queer Latinx dance night, running from 2016 to 2019. They founded PAUSA, Poets Action of Solidarity and Resistance, raising money to support LGBTQ people in South America and in London. Their work has appeared on Clavmag, an online magazine for queer writers, and they perform their poetry at the Roundhouse and at their Lit Festival. In October 2020, Carlos was selected for Poetry London's mentoring scheme, where they are mentored by Barney Kappeldeer. Carlos is currently working on their chapbook, which will be their first printed body of work. Their poems talk about themes of migration, queer and trans existence, and multicultural heritage. And Carlos has in fact just published 3 poems on our online platform, The Hive, and one of us will put the link in the chat. Carlos, if you'd like to take it away.
Thank you, and thank you, Golnoosh, as well, for such a beautiful reading. This first poem is called Trainwreck. The train passes through your flat several times throughout the day. A pole spears through you, gives you time to do something with your life. A fruit fly bounces on the notepad. The bay window kisses into itself. Glass everywhere, like stars. Like a piano, the voice plays into the ground. A passenger breaks up with their partner over text. The floor beneath them opens, the tracks fanged, the tunnel swelling back into the throat of the river. The streetlights toiling with yield, the teeth loosened, filled. With earth, the cups blaze into petals, out of skulls, bones bloom, books see their past lives as trees flying like geese, the cutlery flocks, many mouths unveiling house plants, seeing what we've done, the phone rings, and everything is as bright as an eye, swallowing a bonfire. Your mother call. ¿Qué hijo? Estoy pensando en ti. Bullet hole sized entries. Adios te bendiga. Ribs smoothly driving out like antlers. Te recibes mi mensaje. The debris and rows of it all. Death nodding with an umbrella in hand. In 2015, grassroots activist groups formed a coalition called the Wretched of the Earth after Frantz Fanon's book during the London Climate March. What the Wretched of the Earth retook the front of the Climate March block after organizers switched the order last minute to be led by paper animals. In 2018, a gay man from Pakistan showed me a picture of his friend. In the photo, his friend was dead, and he told me he had killed himself whilst detained in a detention center. Uninstall application. The fox on the road waiting for my chest to say something. Daisies breaking veins into concrete. Clouds, skeletons of fish. A farm dog's curiosity on how a mountain stretches its tongue. I want to tell the fox, I'm sorry. My eyes have turned against me. But my tongue has killed itself. Kept the candle lit in my throat, making playlists for when the ghouls come to play. Little moons keep my body assembled for this long. I spent the last showers of rain with my spine, finding my center on the easel. The heron flies like a river dragon, gives me snail shells worth of emptiness. The blue moth has come to visit abandoned beasts, and you're making graves like you're just beginning. We fashioned wings from chewed ginger and banker's marrow, battle cry hoodies, banners from spirals in ice, coffins with the names of oil companies, smoke from our palms, coalescing wretches to unwhiten the sabotaged block. The deer looks at us, understanding our closed hands. There was nothing I could do for the man who showed me a picture of his dead friend. Thank you. Roy Adrian Curtis, a queer neurodiverse man of color, was found dead in a cupboard in his flat in Milton Keynes. He had been there for 9 months before he was found. On August 15th, 2018, the Department of Work and Pensions cut off Roy's benefits. Roy had made 3 attempts to take his own life between 2016 and 2018. He was a former member of an LGBTQ youth club that I was working at when news of his death was announced. A closet goodbye for Roy Adrian Curtis. You close the door hoping your eyes peel off the sun. Against God's eyes, you lay your final bed, put out your cigarette, sipped from a cracked teacup to playlists singing you to sleep. With yourself inside, goodbye notes tight, instinctual hands, constant like shattered faith. Upward to a tinged answer for despair. The damselfly, admiring your breath, as if waiting for summer to leak out of the corrugated memory of August, you describe the body. Dancing in a bedroom. The rain rains so gently, it's devastating. Your hands downward to a dyed corpus of abandon. You close the door with yourself inside to chase the gleam, opening somewhere where sandcastles float above the sea. A magician sits with their books under a bridge, analyzing a tool, brushing the fire, naming the wreckage. Is it you? Steps away from the protest, passing a flower to someone. Thank you all so much. I want to also apologize for not giving a trigger warning at the beginning of my reading about the parts on suicide, so I do apologize. Thank you all again, and thank you, the 87 Press. Have a lovely evening.
Please make some noise for Carlos, everybody. Thank you, Carlos.
Hermosísimo, Carlos. Gracias.
Thanks very much, Carlos. That was very powerful. Next up, we've got Cole Denya. Cole Denya is an artist and poet based and working in London. Recent publications include Housing Act 2019 and Post UK Olympics 2018. Recent shows, Meet Ends at Peak Gallery 2019, Party Politics at Lima Zulu 2 2018, and a recently opened group show at Le Bourgeois. He also organizes Rest Breaks, a poetry and performance event series. His recent publication, Boiling, is due imminently. Cole, if you'd like to take it away.
Boiling is here, and I'm going to read from it. The light in my room is terrible. I look like I'm in a dungeon, which is quite appropriate. So I'm going to read from in Boiling, which you, if anybody wants to purchase, you can purchase it. It's £8.72, which is a national wage per hour. I'm going to read from two new poems that I've written this week, and then I'm going to read from material from here. If I go on too long, just flag me, or I don't intend to, but anyway. Retfall's final moments on Twitch. HM Factory Inspectorate on Swan Pedalo, holding on the repository role to immolate sooner or later a floor operative all the way back to heaven again. I planted secret radios on the banks of the Euphrates, held together by a dry leaf picket line, and carried on sniffing ether from a bowl. Oh, to toil in the Rubicon makes you sore, bellicose, before the Baccarol resumes as happy music. You cry out, rooted to the harmonic spot, teeth whitening indoors again. Is it the next day no teeth, you hadn't realized, nodding cruciformed in the London sky, beading red, I pray to the acceleral mittel helter-skelter, twice nightly, reduced me to cathedral tears, to drinking, to waking, smiling, to eventually running as Oracle 101 over creches of voluntary high vis, blowing white flags from the dream station. Unstuck, a concrete pillbox slips into shimmering pontoon. I set north to a flue gas stack, empty people, reconstruct a kind of twilight of working, a sort of unblinking cosmic relic of spared hamstrings in worker jackets, torn adrift to be today. In a deep morass of history, the dream station sinks. I lay out, go back to the most insurgent rostrum I had ever mined, my Harnan bed, unclothed, fretting and tinging. I lay down, and equipment rends on in my absence, an image vanguard in pell-mell. There was no illness inside of me, only contracted speaking from above. Oracle 101. They do how? Versions of Monday converge in renal cortices as the new dark age taps my moth-eaten hands, swipes right off command. Stuck in, I am scentless with peak freedom. A red tape Rolodex wraps around my neck, sheds a rubber stamp. Friday, my doctor froze the book, froze the gears of my virtual skelecog in the choking fug, reunite near the water cooler, but withdrawal time runs down inside me. I'm sad to report scarcity for a keyhole sliver. I speak with my neighbor. He says, get in early. Helps the Oxford Mindfulness Centre come twice a fortnight with my ether bowl. It drives a bendy bus, usually found badly animated. It does, doesn't it? With fare dodgers scrumming the rear, all falling off, quiet as pelch. I take the bowl from a red rose tattooed hand, swollen with resting blood. Oh, centurion of stale twinge in my nostril and heavy antecedent love, white on red in a kind of English pastoral projection. I lay back its Retful's final moments on Twitch. 808, do not interrupt, intrusive for euphony. This is another one I wrote on Tuesday. It's called Q Shaman. It's topical. Today, a fascist coiled my skin, trampled in the rotunda, bandoliers on their shoulders to survive egg slicing mini harps, centrifugal some cops, sun blonde. Today, I weep on Larcombe Street, windows blown out in pop debris. The hands and feet of production teams swindle me off medium incantation. Today, my skin in treacle IP. Dawn wire adds neither smoke to my proper wish nor bores on my liver. By several CYP isomes, today I take inhibited lines never. Tomorrow I loathe venal breads and water. So what of it? A postman mile stands on my chest. And to rationalize the yesterday's trig point ethric. Today, over years with no heft, the rubber teat treated like dog ball in tussock hiding ash barricades. Today, my butter house, I drink a cup of unhappy rabbit. And then I'm going to read from this. So, yeah, in boiling England. Our village. An emotion of shoes fitted to thank the government. God selling on a plea shortage. Yes, hung from a peg. Yes, standing in half a dozen half acres of pseudo-park regurgitated. I speak of Taplow, Burnham and Bray. The world is one magnificent shop. On green and pleasant land, you can sell whatever you want. To share the name of our village, when it spreads and you feel grateful, remember, it uses numbers, measurements, and indicators in early warning systems. That's physics up the crane on wimpy building sites to harmonize with a semi-detached villas as mission statement. To preserve this exclusive ambience, at least one servant must be forced into the smallest practical size and should be kept to the rear of the property below the ridgeline and out of sight of any unsympathetic shopfront elements, putting me in ecstasy to waste, death, violence, and animal cruelty. On Monday, ask again to share the name of our village. Ask genetic Greece its appetite to share the name of our village and then leave social starlings. Use keypad to enter first name, last name, and extension number. Surrounded by the air islands, remember our village in the wind over half a dozen half acres, and the water closet flows none other than the maternal silk ribbon that shoots pure hot bliss. And you will be the reason of these names, and you will be natural and clean, and you can share the name of our village. The next one's called voluntary cozy provision in relation to powers that be. Minted at home, hastened bathrobe, managerial exhibitionist on a bacchanal fuddle. Look me in the eye, penal disorder. Look me in the Ouroboros, hoax the lunar house, binge again to a bladdered, heart-welted stoic, watching with vampiric comfort the regal undying cloisters filled, shut away, and sing to yourself, hurt the tensor, lived out a joyless marriage for an international baccalaureate, didn't graduate, so eating my hand with no backup. This adrenal hard drive boils under me, a thickener to start. Blood billionaires in a geriatric paradise get hidden in chamomile lawns and cowslip illuminate the epistle flax irises, having your everlasting sweet peas and horse meat dinners. I detest for a keepy, a halo of enemy speech, ousting misty hearts, ease and violet playboys, the empire over varnished and no hope for sustainable leakage reduction analysis. They creep inside your single glaze, lock you in. You have to pay premium rate. So humans make their own history. Look, please fund this car park now for non-legacies of financial big flash in the upscaling pan, every carbuncle, every council, balding bestie, scalding the child, entrepreneurial style slasher. Southwark Council is a tango with private equity firms, Bararungaroo under a stone, rip-off, dragnet, cash flows, cowabunga. My temples ringing with reduced global headcount like fox hunting the skies. Don't worry, it's legal. Like tenement shift dwelling deeper inside my line manager's mangled heart will likely vanish and I'll stayed on in grease boiling front line, out marking your colleague enemies, London drained of all human life. Isn't it fucking marvelous? Now we can really get back to this real post-life rebuild and miasma, the atmosphere. Foot jobbed, rural retreats are in splinter form around vanguard logicians, forming an aleatory map of a city. It's winter, you forgot, a wailing offshoot, a shrinking gut reboot. It's a gig and go homeless, tough seal, from the sinkhole, forgotten people, thriving in the undercrofts or pelted windows, lassoing 4 decades of grouting. Now that's history to the outer dark. A foal in my head is unchecked scullery. The pewter scrubs away any civic unrest. Always did. We know from Reconstruction, and you didn't listen. So I have to set fire to this mountain of crated plastic bottles, the size of a short terraced house, covered in shrink wrap, stacked on wooden pallets, burning all day and all night. The plant wall buckled. From the heat inside, a rotary of free night shift types, spontaneously relieved of their duties, whilst the incendiary potential kept going, and everything is takeout, this smiling law of dead mutton asleep. Your town got dug up by a quantum chartered surveyor, beelined a subterranean self-care unit, a foal in my own or unseen winged ambit, flatten me out, run me over, this past national germiade, unmade, uncushioned levy on every single soul sought doing privation, overcome a bed throw, this rotten, rented sink in dynamism of a dog leash. Again, clipping has been turned off. The kiss of death on truncheons is a reliable ticket receipt, made quieter to the seal of life, thicket and spree. Step on the frog, make it crazy again. And then I think one or two more. Is that right? Yeah. I don't know. Police children are born. Inside of Eton Rent, milk toast, the corners of black mould, gently scoring loaned iron skillets, or a life non-scarce, cozied and out to lunch, hastened the dockless night, leave me in one of the many royal parks, surrounded by swan meat, inedible, coughed up tributaries to a palisade care. From bromides, the jobless giblet of gravy of our species, the harder you shake the pack, the harder an FF175 BP fridge freezer makes sense. On a Sirius rising to a singing polymer, foils its cavity barrier. Crown civis of pulp, celiotex, and the omnibus pudding boils for hours, unattended. So stay put, rend this dotage, your fault of sweet whips ding dong, a fine divide in net curtains or neighboring skyline of cut purses, snapped up in sub-tenure. I go down to the regeneration department on a countless heartbeat, fingering the cool infirmary of municipal socialism, faked patronage, broken my angiograms in rescue effort, and watch the slenderest margins drop, flake on soaring orphans. With a council tenancy support grant, I am catapulted to the event horizon. Dear Peter John, a year in Provence on winter oranges, swilling, blood snaps on a pawnbroker's bow, LTD inflated Roman law. It gets mileage as AD chums blow donne the lot, lost in outage, the midnight flicks cannot bless me an echo chamber still, so doors locked quick in eviction time. OBE, JCB, Apostle Peter John. I was the man injecting drugs into my penis, and it will happen again. For tillage of Get Living brand name, my last new will available. Sink it deep in bounty corpora. Look, wealth of early impalement. Sanctioned hair comb as custom blindness. Hoards whiffle. Go pleat. Leather grain. Everything looks great in nuclear light. The gangland spire stokes spare music on crimson bob. Oh, downpours on Jerusalem. And then one final poem called The Resurrection. It's for Stanley up there. A crap misaimed bottle of sable coloured wired together in clop of blondish tough, asking for dodo meat again outside for old time's sake. An obsolete light steals the silk jackets out in a cooker melt, brittle toenails to the sun, purloin in defect, black prill, the sweet air, wherein my joys are a chest pain. Under the drooping floors, its sarta chorus of imperium hard-ons, this soil is grace and favour, like eaves shaded long in a psychodrama, submissive loyal to portfolio marquee, screening the kindred grandeza in nacreous snail trail, all popped, white-collar clubmen, moo in tandem, Toby jugged, Rainine, dinner speech, muzzle the coffers, mine, hence not yours.
Please make
Thanks
some
so
noise for Paul.
Incredible stuff from Cole there. And you can find his In Boiling England. I might put the link in the chat. So do check that out. So next up, we have got Ed Luca. Ed Luca is a poet and writer based in London. He is the author of 4 chapbooks, including Peak Return, Head Lost, The Sea Together, and Compound Out the Fractured World. He runs a semi-regular reading series, radio show, and poetry platform Rivet. His 5th collection, Heavy Waters, was released in 2019 by the 87 Press, by us, and his 6th, Other Life, by Broken Sleep Books, is out this year. I believe it's just coming out right now. Ed.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to be here, wherever that might be, and with you. Yeah, I'm going to read from this new book that is called Other Life and is a series of poems that were written a lot at the same time as the 87 book. So although I didn't necessarily conceive of it as such when I was doing it, they're quite interesting to look a lot at alongside one another. But I just want to start, I'm going to read a poem by someone else that I was just reading this afternoon. I just had to stop what I was doing for a couple of hours and have a nap, kind of take a work break. And I was reading these Christopher Middleton translations of Hölderlin, who's not a poet I know well. Which is why I got this selected, because I was like, oh, I don't know anything about Hölderlin. And I was just really taken by this poem, To the Fates, that I'm going to read in translation. It's not long, but I mean, yeah, the first line will strike a pang of need right into the middle of your heart. To the Fates. Grant me a single summer, you lords of all, a single autumn for the full-grown song, so that, with such sweet playing sated, then my heart may die more willing. The soul, in life robbed of its godly right, rests not, even in Orcus down below. Yet should I once achieve my heart's first holy concern, the poem. Welcome then, O stillness of the shadow world. Even if down I go without my music, I shall be satisfied. Once, like gods, I shall have lived. More I need not. Thanks, Hölderlin and Christopher Middleton. Yeah, that poem just really got me, skewered me. And I'm just going to start in the middle of Other Life. And this poem is called Clown Town 3. Poems are so embarrassing, or when you have no money, dress your little lambs as gremlins and take them to the job centre to get fake gremlin jobs, not meant for lambs. And the muse says, get your shit out of my fucking business, buddy. Then your fake gremlin lambs will have fake gremlin lamb babies and you can cream off their wages and benefits, the milk and honey of the DWP. It's like being stuck with your bad thoughts, plucking a lone liar, sticking your head in a fire, eating marshmallows out your asshole, inscribed on a big stick that it keeps bashing you with in public, like, oh, there's my bad thoughts again. I am the poetry boss because I am embarrassing. I am the embarrassing mob boss of poetry, gorging myself to death at that nice restaurant atop the peak of Mount Parnassus, on that fancy expensive food, cooked angel livers and devil's gold, and I can't even read the menu because it's in ancient Greek. I keep clicking my fingers at all the waiters, their cloven hooves clopping, cussing me out in ancient Greek. I point at the menu. I'll have some more of that, how do you say, poetic inspiration, please. Like, so I took you to Clown Town, and I was incredibly excited to take you there. I even wrote about it in my diary, but I had a bad dream returning, an anxiety dream, a dream in which I was very, very anxious, where I was crying in the crystal shop. I don't know why, I just started crying, and then I couldn't stop. You laughed at me. It's the matter that keeps dragging you back through hell. So I took you to Clown Town, and I did cry in the crystal shop, the shop with the crystals, and I put it in a poem. It's the matter that keeps dragging you back through hell. And then I want to read this poem called Back on My Bullshit, which my dad said he likes. My dad isn't listening, but my dad always is like, oh, I don't really understand poetry, but yeah, seems cool stuff, great stuff. So this is for Big John Luca. Back on my bullshit. I will do it tomorrow. Today is a Tuesday. Yesterday I am indifferent to it, but vorrei spiegarvi odio, rosso, blau, schmeckt. The edges of memory tatter this skin we feign to live within. I will do it tomorrow. Snogs in the key of life. This is my comeback album. Let me explain, oh God, I have drunk all the wine. Indifference won't kill you and neither will wine. Do not speak of it, love. I will do it tomorrow. That will be Wednesday. I am over today. Please come down. Back on my bullshit. Why don't you stop? Listen. Stop. No. Don't. I can't. It's difficult. Oh God, let me explain. Okay. I'm reading all the kind of sort of more playful ones first before we go in hard, because I kind of felt like play was important now. This one's called Funfair. Oh heavens, to these immaculate hells, between all this, the ears, the light fails, grey matter, thud, fuck's sake. It is too hot. Do we live to dream? We do of each caress, fractured this holding all, or spin out in endless stupid. The sushi belt at the end of the klaxon. At the end, choose best wisely, new friend. Yours, insert £2 The alarm rings out, ever new emergencies of, oh shit, what is this crisis again? I have lost my place amongst the pretty angels and devils of this dead set wreckage, the gap between necessity and finitude. Shit in a bowl. Poetry. Microplastics. Fire in the augury. Carousels of giant clowns in the guts of love. Wrestling the radioactive octopod army in the green sewer. The slush poppy dog floating upstream to Valhalla. But we get used to it. We do get used to it, we do. Feeding our demon pets horse meat in the iron barns on the squatted Soviet air bases. Feeding our familiars the nucleus of dead stars behind the funfair of insidious desire, behind the backs of our pitiless neighbors who we spit at in disgust. Oh, snort this with me, won't you? I will die alone and you will die alone. A mother gently weeps into a distant phone. I stand atop the Acropolis of piety and somehow know myself to be better, as in not like you, but a better person than you. I shout in your face to let you know this. You don't look pleased. What do you know? This will be good for you. Everyone has their price. Poetry has wet hair. If you brush it, it falls out. You have to taper it back. It's like that sometimes. Rip it from the roots. It is cruel to keep going over the lines. Start again. Okay, and this is 3 short poems about the moon. I think it was a new moon yesterday, so I hope you've all set your intentions because they're very likely to come true at the moment because it's a really good time for realization and actualization and just reaching for those goals. So, you know, my goal is like get up, brush my teeth, eat breakfast. If I've done that, that's a good day. Yeah, there was this really mental moon in like April, May, and it was so full and big that one whole night I just kind of lay completely awake and couldn't sleep. I could feel it like pressing against me. Yeah, I wrote a poem about this moon. Moonbathing after a night walk. Fucking hell. I mean, I'm gonna have to start again because that sounded a bit like Hugh Grant. I'm not that comfortable with that. Fucking hell. Did you see the moon last night? Half asleep, Andres knocked on my door. We walked to the marshes with the dog named Luna, bathing in its blue glowing ring. Its big O, melancholy on a stick in the sky. This is the second of the moon poems called Huge Moon. Huge moon. I can't stop thinking about that huge moon, morbid O, symptoms littered across the sky, the air stuffed a viral ring or crown. Oh, huge moon, what is it that you want from us? Moon poem, the third one. It is a drag to tell your secrets to the twilight hours, whispering close dream and to have the moon not let you go to the land of sleep as it keeps weighted and luminous, pressing on your eyelids through the brick wall. Is it strange to call the moon luminous? I mean, what else? It is the moon after all. So I wake, little else to do, with the real morning, with the actual morning of the absolute sky, and drag myself into the crisp immutability of a song lighted in the next air from a distant bird's mouth. Okay, and now I'm going to do some bangers, like ones which are like, you know, angry bangers. I'm going to finish with the angry bangers. Kind of like sad angry bangers. The human body is at war with itself. This is just like, I was actually just at the London Buddhist Centre on Roman Road and could hear police sirens whilst meditating. And I wrote this poem after. I'm on the floor of the Buddhist Centre. Don't ask why. I mean, really, I could explain, but lying in Shavasana, I hear a police car outside, mind wandering. I'm asked to give heed to my breath. There were days this summer where it was so hot that everything stank of death and our throats were dirt. And breathing in the moment of the blue siren scream, I wonder what hurts in this city where restraints never cease. How many made homeless today by heavies and bailiffs? How many lungs heave and anxious chests tighten because the bills and debts pile up in the doormat, unopened as fear grips the vertebrae, all clenched? London, where the bubbles swell and knives burst and everything is indexed to its impossibility. For those without, and the price is the extension of the dreams of all who profit from immiseration. The city of sharp increases. We handle ourselves against the calls and clamours to work for more. The share price of Foxton's Group PLC was up this morning as Phil Collins sings Another Day in Landlord Paradise. As this continual dispossession has its own order of movement, as knuckles flex in eager cock gloves, unfurling like a hibiscus flower in a glass of champagne. Each new day brings the working of the old laws. Standing skyscraper tall, spine straight, capital sings the body athletic. Taut steel embraces pinnacle glass. How many doors have the Met Police smashed in across the last few weeks? And how many young men were arrested on suspicion of being little else but otherwise indifferent? The violence of the demand for transparency. Put your thumbprint here. Sit down. What did you say? This is very serious. Anything you do say shivers down the traces of your nerve structure as blood swells blue to the surface. In the dark corners, away from the cameras, the silent treatment, confined impact, a jab, capillaries burst in this trauma. You know and I know it is simple as this. The human body is at war with itself. Right, I think I'll do 2 more longer ones. I have to decide what ones. I think I'm going to do this one on defeat and then this long poem. It's not too long, don't worry. Oh no, I'm going to do the last poem now, and then I'm going to do the long one. This is called Joy Again. So this is the last poem in the book. This is where I want to finish normally. Joy again. To my accomplices, oh, of the possible I sing in kind, which is to say I sing pushed up against a limit, point to be live within the line of all pressing forth, and perhaps joy is the delusion of the line, breaking of things to break from without or within. And so flames do as in possession they rupture, in body of boy break in as that spark to not be, to out the eye together in this stand from which the flex of muscle, the stance to break, out with joy and flame now together is pressed again, pressed against the necessity of disavowal of a blunted spirit, to live in the balance of account, singing from without in the count, all the properties spilling out from the rim, expand the limit in a slackening, so sing to stretching where we are as a rather not beyond an outgrowth of self-fluoresce, to make the uninhabitable a scion of the new and break each determinant of property speculation. Which is to say, so sing pushed up against now and seized the limit, this point, to where the body is lost in its song, how in character as the transmitting it could break forth as a possible we, such where we singing we are as breaking out. We are the throat stricture is of personhood in the history of mass is damage seized. Lend and borrow, we break and burn, they bury, so take back everything they have stolen, so to mourn the loss of everyone. Oh, lives grow new in the re-entered garden, to the we planting against this theft not civic. All love brings damage over, breaks the bounds of the being in polis, an incriminating of possession. What does love break out of? So how does it restore that which must be broken? Such are the stakes that we might inhabit a break from that which we no longer can be in, but must live through. So out, but joy bounds the knot of what we can't be. Okay, and this last poem is called How Did You Survive January? Also known as the election poem. It's a poem that I wrote in February last year. What will be really interesting, I think, is that it sounds like a lockdown poem. Like I kind of imagined in the poem what was about to happen, which is not what happened. I was just incredibly depressed in January because my friend died and because of the election. Fuck the Labour Party, but yeah, this is still an election poem. Obviously fuck the Tories too, but that's a given. How did you survive January? How did you survive January? I drank and then I didn't. I went to the gym a lot, stopped going to the gym and then started again. Noticed every small declension in the condition of the world, logged it in an etching on brown leather in pink crayon behind my eyelid, from my abdomen to the cracks in the tarmac at the bus stop, to the salvation leaflets, gambling forms and tax bills stapled on your forehead. I ate healthily, concertedly, emphatically, and then didn't eat at all. Breathed the miraculous air and then spat it out, terrified by the definite fact of reality continuing. I would open the front door, close it, open it, close it again. Then upon opening it, I would prise through the gap this spinning disc, this undulating, ululating, beautiful peach cream of the pink sky. This, the world still continuing to be there. This, each time it swung on its hinges, that's the this of the door in your face. This certainty of going on as the sun rises and slams against the bonnet of the day's sick crest. I washed my sheets a few times. Roti factory next to the laundrette changed its name to Roti restaurant. I don't know if it's more like a factory or a restaurant, but the roti is still good. I stomped around outside in the not cold enough cold of our ecology collapsing in front of our eyes, talked to friends about our incessant hearts breaking. It's like we have all internalized, well, I wouldn't want to. The silent stupor of endless brutality marches up along the sidereal alleyway, of the burning phantasmal collapse of continuous reality management, the spinning digital pylons plated through the ricocheting satellite sky as the rats rush past. In a world where nobody gets what they want except some people get fucking loads of what they don't want because they don't want anyone else to have it. I would walk across the marshes at dusk, stomping through the intractable interiority of still being. Yesterday, it was 13 degrees Celsius in fucking January, and yet I was still too cold. Revived myself with 2 hours at the Russian Banya, calmed by the fact that no one was talking politics, in English at least. January, a climactic slump, the deep freeze of a blue spirit crushed in the antechamber of this small island's pitiless cruelty. I think of the white English taxi driver at the spa, sat in his pants with his belly out, engrossed in a video on a large screen of a man playing Mozart on a piano to an elephant. I think about how the elephant swayed, and we're supposed to think that this means it enjoys the music. But how would we know otherwise? This morning, I fell into a pit of snakes again. I started counting all the utensils in the kitchen, laid them all out on a long line, end to end, starting with the knives, then the spoons, then the forks, then moved on to the larger utensils. The line started to snake around the kitchen, down the corridor, and past the bathroom to the front of the house and back again, a domestic arabesque. January, I left the house a few times in search of more utensils and then stayed at home. Sometimes I checked my emails. Every now and then I would apply for jobs. Every day I woke up and fell into the spike trap. Every day I woke and tripped into the tar pit. Every day I arose and was arrested by the medieval police, thrown from my bedroom into a dark basement, from which I would clamber out every day and continue on my merry, seditious way. I started to split the utensils in half, lengthways, so that the line would reach further. Eventually, I got a job. From time to time, I answered my calls, then stopped answering my calls, and then started again, apart from unknown numbers, because I'm not ready to die. How did you survive January? I chalked off the days on the wall in the dark recesses of my medieval cell. The days of January, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 34th, 56th, 67th, 103rd. Nobody knew it had so many days, just like nobody knew the tremors of fascism, the property delirium and boredom of Enfield, Woodford, Harrow. The screaming slammed door in your face is the felt reality of this ideology, of misery's endless sacrifice of joy. At the altar of mortgages, smoke alarms, car loans, can openers, vicious racism, class antagonism, screeching silence, monogamy, the sheer fucking dull stupidity of the nuclear family. In December, a hefty blade nearly sliced one of Tom's fingers clean off from his hand. He was just trying to put a leaflet through a door in Canterbury. When his movements triggered an anti-burglary device, everyone was white and miserable, full of resentment, but I don't think they should pay for healthcare. The man trimming his hedge with a yellow convertible in the driveway was unsurprisingly rude. Fuck Canterbury. In Kensington, people were either really rich or really poor with barely much in between, apart from walls and security devices, and all of them maddened by the fact of being where they were. I knocked on the door of a man on my list in a post-war brutalist housing estate. He was not the man named on the sheet. Still, I asked him if he was going to vote. He was a middle-aged North African man wearing an FC Barcelona shirt. The television was blaring loudly in the background. He said he loved Jeremy Corbyn, but he could not vote. I noticed that he was crying. When I left him, I stood in the stairwell and cried. How did you survive January? I stopped reading the newspaper, threw my laptop off the end of a pier, gaffer taped all the glass on the windows of the flat in the hope that it would stop them rattling in the wind, spent several hours in Downward Dog, started talking to the birds at the bottom of the garden, started knocking on the doors of all the houses on the street, said, "Hello, my name is Ed, did you know that?" A few doors slammed in my face. I would try to say, "Hello, my name is Ed, did you know?" A few more slammed doors in my face. I would try to say to the doors on my street of my neighbour's face, "Hello, my name is Ed. Did you know that Boris Johnson is a cunt and Sean Bonney is dead?" The phone kept on ringing for the unknown numbers. I would sprint to the front door and ask the nearest stranger in the street to answer. They'd say, "Yes, We're sorry. It's true. Boris Johnson is a cunt and Sean Bonney is dead. I collected every drop of rain for the whole month in a cup on my windowsill, decanting the water in the cup into a larger trough just below. It's over now, and perhaps we can commend ourselves for that. If you are reading this, then you aren't dead. Congratulations. It was cold, and yet it was not cold enough. I don't know what to do next. How did you survive January? I wore your love bites under my t-shirt like a secret charm. Each tooth mark, a bruised letter of an unknown alphabet, memory pressed into flesh. I got mad. I howled at the moon like a sick dog. I thought about my friends, called them up, and we sat on the phone in silence. Take care of yourselves.
Please
And
make
your
some
love.
noise for Ed Luca. Thank you, Ed.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Hello, everyone. As Azad's here now, I'm taking over the reins from Kashif. Thanks so much for being here. There's so many of you, and this is probably the biggest January event we've ever done, which is wonderful. We're going to take a short break, but before we go on a break, Sophie and Aisha Sheikh, who are our tech team, are about to post, or they have posted our crowdfunder details. If you haven't already, and if you have capacity to donate, please do. We're trying to raise money to produce 8 books, 12 online publications, which will be open access and free at the point of viewing, and also launch, put on 10 events. Please try and donate, and if not, circulate. It would really mean the world to us. There are about 5 days left to do so. Thanks so much to all of you for being here. Again, it's really great. And we've got 3 poets left this evening, which is awesome. And first of them is Emma Gomis. And before I introduce Emma Gomis, I want to say that Emma and Kashif and I are collaborating on a really interesting series of symposia that are being hosted by Emma's wonderful press Manifold. So we're focusing on experimental criticism, and there's loads of really interesting discussions. I'm going to post a link to the Facebook event, but they're all free. You just have to register through Eventbrite, and there's some really, really great discussions that are going to be happening over the next couple of months. So I hope you can all attend. Emma Gomis is a Catalan-American essayist, poet, editor, and translator. She is the co-founder of Manifold Press. Her texts have been published in the Denver Quarterly, the Brooklyn Rail, Entropy, Asymptote, and Vice magazine, among others. And her chapbook, Kangsona, is forthcoming from Blush Lit. She was selected by Patricia Spears Jones as the Poetry Project's 2020 Brannan Poetry Prize winner. She holds an MFA in Creative Writing and Poetics from Naropa's Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics, where she was also the Anne Waldman Fellowship recipient, and is currently pursuing a PhD in Criticism and Culture at the University of Cambridge. Emma.
Thank you, Azad. First, I just want to say thanks to Azad and Kashif. I've been really heartened by everything that the 87 Press is doing and trying to keep us feeling some kind of togetherness or community, even if it's through these digital transmissions. I think it's still really important for us to be together in some way in language. And thanks for all the other beautiful readings. It goes a long way in making you feel like you're not in your own like solipsistic bubble alone. Anyway, I'm gonna read some poems that are in English and Catalan. I was born sundry. Dues vegades. Primera infanta, a girl, un dia de sol in Barcelona, juliol del 1989. I després it happened again. A twig al bosc near Boulder, Colorado, agost del 1998. I was born twice. The second ripped hinge from structure. S'aclarava entre les llàgrimes. It required me to brave the acquisition, com un roure que va creixent al llarg dels anys. It feels cliché to invoke the phoenix here, but there, I've done it. Much more apt to search for metaphor in geology, the slow formation of lichen, the bloom, o algo que es va adaptant a l'ambient que l'envolta, slowly incorporating colors and qualities of newness. Shoo shoo. We teach our grandmother how to use a virtual medium so she can show us the bird loitering on her balcony. She says, mira com xiu-xiueja a la finestra. El xiu-xiueig ens fa companyia. Sometimes I hear it in the shower or when I'm flipping the laundry. The soft hum quickens and falls into sync. Shoo shoo hum, shoo shoo hum, shoo shoo hum, shoo shoo hum. I start to witness the sound of the same bird. My sister doesn't call it a bird, she calls it a day. She measures time by the sound of her food cooking. Dreta a la cuina vigilant mentre el menjar fa xup-xup. My text flips with the sheets. It begins with a hum followed by chup-chup, shoo-shoo, then hum again. In both terms, bird and day, space swells then collapses upon itself. It forms and unforms in pliant dimensions. In its swerve, we all move into each other. The cicadas in one location echo in the opposite. The birds shoo-shoo, 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 syncopating a creak-creak, creak-creak, creak-creak. When they all unite, the sounds go shoo-shoo, hum, chup-chup, hum, creak-creak, hum, etc. I archive the sounds I hear. I codify the rain, the passing car, the squeaking door. In my silence, each sound feels significant, provides structure in its disruption. El nostre ritme abarca el que és quotidià. El ritual, la paraula, la rutina, la repetició. El ritual, a gesture of reiteration. La paraula, a poetics of the reiterative. La rutina as a practice of reiterative living. La repetició, a process of reiteration. I reach a meaning making through repetition. The resurfacing click, 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 the elliptical shoo, 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 shoo. M'ubico i m'oriento en desxifrar els xiulets que entren per la finestra. A heavy, precocious din tips my ballast, da cop i volta. Clips a twin tongue, my toll coupled, a reiteration. A poc, mica and mica. The sound tills despite my undoing, seems beneath, furtively clad in hush, hush. Chinu, chanu, respira, parleja, palpa. Receded. I came bearing a fading llum, presumed the recess of a periphery. Una cançó que repeteix again and again and again entre nosaltres i els nostres. Careless, I approached. Deixa'm en l'aixopluc llençols al llindar greixos, mullats. I felt soft and reckless, cradled in the cup of kin, enganxada, ballant. El mateix mereix una escletxa. An almost imperceptible bloom left me agog, floored, watching them pace circles by the water, dressed in black. Baixa així, mesquitxa. A piercing silence com una mena d'extensió de mi mateixa. Immobile in the depths of a clearing, el que garanteix un espai propi. Quiet, quiet, in Catalan a silence, in English a stillness. Then to reckon with a parting, creix, encaixat, es beneix. Oniric. A coven of cranes keeps vigil over the half-sized door that leads to the woods. I double over and cross my hands. My sister wakes me up at 3 a.m. to tell me about her dream, how there were strange birds nuzzling against one another, their backs smoking like hot coal as they dove backwards into the water. The greenery covers unassuming, so vivid and harrowing, as if the plants were to take on a life that wasn't theirs, as if they would grow teeth, extend their heads out like zip ties violently towards us. I didn't say a word. I kept close and walked softly, allowing the opacity to render a sketch, a canopy swaying in the dark. As she was telling me about it, the angel that came in her fever reappeared, then appeared to disappear. And it was made of corn, a little doll from the cornfields where she left a coin in the bird's beak. When we reached the river, we pulled dimes from the silt. The birds dipped their beak in the mud and coated their feathers. We culled and collected. They kettled and keened. She told me about the marvel that becomes revealed then concealed at the span of a ripple, the crescent of our shapes. How the ways we are haunted appear in the water, something akin to a passing, something untamed to be wild. Her black-haired angel, gown soaked and sleeves slapping against the water like a marvelous bird. Inventory, a score on prediction and residue. I start to experience a series of line breaks. Someone wants to name the dog Couplet. I put the dog on repeat and an uncanny music emerges. My own currency, a predictable spine, shapely and open. Language is inventory conditioned by prancing. Working with residue, I construct some orders, produce an inventory. My uncanny score, a predictable spine, shapely and open. Traces. As a way of keeping you close, I follow, trace your thought. It curls as it mounts the stair and shimmers at a clearing. T'escric des de lluny, em poso les teves paraules a les butxaques. In a care to carry your rhythm, I drape the film of your shape over my body. It creases and folds. El teu ritme presocràtic, els teus gests petits miralls. From one object to the next, I finger contours left behind. Yearn for you to animate a quick turn in palm of hand. Un crit s'enfonsa al pit, com un ocellet que vol ser alliberat. I pace the perimeter of your room, straining to summon the fade of your print in folds of your garments. No sé com més puc dir-te que et trobo a faltar. A kinship. Dear sister, as I write this, rectangles overlap, creating a jagged perimeter. Our floor plans converge, one on top of the other, like an elaborate three-dimensional topography. My kitchen extends into yours, bricks meld with wood. Con esta manía de situarme reconozco mi espacio. Casa rectangular, cama rectangular, pantallas rectangulares. I move from one to the next, sweeping around the borders. There's a place where the lines intersect. Syllables are muddled and language folds over. I wake up to find my pillow cradled in the nook of a right angle. La incertidumbre se hace perpetua. Los bordes de nuestros espacios se confunden, se borran, quedan suspendidos. Around midday, I wanted to stop writing, but I had already put myself in the kitchen, my laptop glowing on the counter, repurposing the space. And there, I kept thinking of a diagram Diane de Prima drew of time as a straight line with pockets that you could slip into. I am inhabiting one of her pockets. Es como un hueco vacío, como una cueva infinita donde mi nombre me vuelve a llegar repetido. In the pocket, time moves at strange speeds. Sometimes I write for hours, sometimes for minutes. Both increments feel equal, approximate. From this hollow, this room, and my roomlessness, I talk to you. The rectangles split and a grid lays over my speech. Las formas en distorsión expandida. Las frases se intercambian en variación. Los detalles se multiplican. As a structure, a grid is inherently multiple. It repeats itself. The same figure compulsively recurs. We say the same sentences in different orders. The grid offers constraint and order, which in turn allows room for freedom and variation. In The Originality of the Avant-Garde, the art critic Rosalind Krauss writes that the absolute stasis of the grid, its lack of hierarchy, of center of inflection, emphasizes only its anti-referential character, but more importantly, also its hostility to narrative. The grid is not a totalizing system, but rather a poetics of the iterative, a queering of linear narrative. There's no singular telling, but inflections and hues that shimmer in our variation. The stories I tell you, like squares of a grid, are irreconcilable. They can't come together to form an individual telling. Vivo en ausencia, entre las cuadrículas de mi papel. In the pocket where my boundaries dissolve, the grid imposes itself. Lines ripple across thicker lines, the rigidity of the grid fluctuating and warping with the light. I want everything I made before discovering the grid to disappear. I no longer think in rectangles. In the grid, there's no original square that is then repeated, rather all squares are repetitions of each other. In the grids used in modernist visual art, the grid overlaid onto a canvas becomes a doubling of the surface, imposes a geometric order, which doesn't reveal the surface, but rather renders it opaque. Quiero vivir en esta opacidad onírica. Quiero hablarte desde mi papel cuadriculado. I'm gonna finish with this short one. An impression of something you said came soft, spectral, guttural. Així xiula un xic, que sigui com un esquitx a l'orella. The sound lingered, milled, returned in different shape. Una força més dolça m'atravessa com una fletxa. I wanted to hold it, flatten the glow in my blue din, allow it to materialize in bold cadence. Ja s'han llançat les peces torçades, deixa que es col·loquin bé. In the moment of waking, I emerge in reverence, as if coming back from a near miss. Thank you.
Please make some noise for that in the bonus.
Woo! Amazing.
Thank you so much, Emma. That's the first time we've had you here at the 87, and I hope the first of many. That was a really, really mesmerizing reading. Thank you so much. Sophie and Aisha Sheikh have posted the symposium in the chat. Please do have a look at that, the Experimental Criticism Symposium that's running over the next few months. And now our penultimate reader, Fran Lock, is a sometime itinerant dog whisperer, the author of 7 poetry collections and of numerous chapbooks, most recently Contains Mild Peril, Outspoken Press 2019. Fran has recently completed her PhD at Birkbeck College, University of London, titled Impossible Telling and the Epistolary Form, Contemporary Poetry, Mourning and Trauma. She is an associate editor at Culture Matters, and she currently teaches at the Poetry School. Take it away, Fran.
So some forthcoming repellents now. Wild talents. There is no man who is without the hyena element in his composition. And there is no hyena that is not at least rudimentarily human. Charles Hoy Fort. On the day of your death, I became a striped hyena. Hysteria's lank technician, cursorial man-eater, witch's mount. I ran, filiform punk with my mane of stale thistles over Primrose Hill across Black Heath to gnaw the shin bones of monuments, dragging my afflicted eye through the cagey manners of Frasers and Richardsons, each lesser cray. London's twitchy slang bloomed under me. I was not afraid, animal abandoned to its instincts, slouching down the twisting Venel steps to lick the yeast of my misdeeds. I tore your bleakest manor into strips, left pennants of its dark meat snagged on the late Victorian railings. In cemeteries I scorned inscriptions, wiped my hazy scent all over. I was the fur atlas of my loss, and the yellow grass grew sharp where it rubbed on me. Your heart's varmint, darling of the solvent park, weaving the obstinate dusk into silent film. Starry cuss, I did not sleep but lay panting on a raft of trash. The serial bedwetter's flammable mattress, Saturday magazines still in their cellophane empire mine, my hackles in the full flag of this failed state flea bit. The day after your death, when they found me, Hoke's wraith white at the road's wide middle, I think I was running, I think I'd been dreaming. I was the starkest hound of my spirit, gargoyle against this human bruise. Sibua. Is my heritage to me like a hyena's lair? Go assemble all the wild beasts and bring them to devour. Jeremiah 12:9. Thus, circumstance has compelled me to tell you, you know jack shit about hyenas, dear. This, for instance, hyena is not an animal, but an edge. Where grief has its house, her wetted territories sing. The opposite of pleasure is not pain. Hyena does not dig the dead from their graves, but where bodies meet the sun halfway, she is the war's mute treasurer. She has carried away our loss in moist parcels with an extremity of tenderness. Draw around a sleeping dog with chalk. Turn away and count to 10, hyena will rise. Patroness of feral misgivings. Her several habitats are as follows: Lebanon, Versailles, the Falls Road on her oak after a storm. That which you call her pelt, her overalls, that which you call her mane, her crown. Tuppenny crones prefer the sleek indifference of felines. Hyena is her own raving spectrum, mascot of ruder perversions. It is a militant witch indeed who rides the long night into Rorschach, nose buried in her sweating neck. In the mid-1970s, radical lesbian separatists hoisted her face like a flag over pool halls and dive bars. In the late 1990s, her loping form was sighted in a comet-spitting tail. It is said that if you see a hyena in your dreams, you will die a violent death. This is true. However, hyena is not harbinger, but prophet. Some people simply will not be told. In Guadalupe, her image appeared in a black mission fig, and similar visions have been reported in the South Hebron Hills near Susia. To find the image of hyena in a piece of fruit is to be bought not luck, but fortitude. Within the troublant ecologies of loss, hyena is the undisputed mater lacrimarum, or third mother. Her signature maneuver is the planchette, sharp silhouetted corsair crossing any bucking sea. The night revolves around her, and didn't I tell you all hyenas are female, that is, all hyenas are pirates. Hyena, our funerary renegade, is a poltergeist in a hair shirt. Where taxonomists say the hyena is closer to the cat than the dog, it is our stated position that hyena is closer to a baby grand piano, to an Acme safe in free fall, to a typewriter thrown from a hotel window. And dearest, hyena is nearly extinct. To become a hyena is to live without captains or champions, to tarry packless in dangerous places, sectarian wreck grounds, hospital corridors. Hyenas love well, but not often. There's a fine line between woo and woe, what she'd do to impress you, a million pitchy costumes. Hyenas are prized for the aphrodisiac qualities of their hindsight. Men have been grinding their bones to powder for centuries, poor fools. Hyena's power is not in her marrow, but in the near miraculous knack of her cherishing. She has been known to sit vigil for 800 years. Hyenas have no proverbs, only poetry. That which you cruelly describe as howling is, in point of fact, the end of a song you persist in mishearing. Blatant wassail, karaoke, how sorrow is ground like a coarse blue lens. So, a break from hyenas for a minute. We now have bats, so many bats. Mina Harker to her stalker. Your bats have exceeded the belfry, leather attrition of wings to wear the twilight into dark, and numerous. Their mammal zeitgeist hums. Bats have written this song in basic. You are straightened, phony, and prowling, seething with chivalry. How a wine glass breaks against your teeth, your latex tears, combing your thinning hair in the callous lounge too bright. A bat is a kind of airborne pocket inside out. Shake its dirty purse of fur and watch as all your plumbous verbs fall down, your copper coins, your guano squall of names. Your bats have exceeded the belfry. You are becoming what you mutter to the mirror, marrow sucker, expanding a paraffin kiri through windows sealed with wax. A carbide pulse, these bats, to beat against your walls, your doors, your devastated glossaries of blood, and you, a muppet ghost, scribe to every mealy thought, the loiterer in gloaming, sickness in the rose. You'll rise, keening your canine distemper into email, thumb the touchscreen's runny eye, grouch your mouth with dogged spite. Here come bats, crepusculating wraiths, angel cudgels, tenderizing air, their flight a chiral fate you read minutely into ruin. Your bats have exceeded the belfry, dense ball of bats, a single raving viral heave. You believe yourself a victim? No. You've courted this coat of bats, and no atroce dumb sans merci am I, no witch's curse for your buttonhole, no poison lick blow bloom, your own piss licked from burdock, gristle stems of weeds, no ver to you. A counterfeit Melmoth grinding his Protestant teeth to stain, and on the poxy edge of sleep are bats, heralds of nocturnal ego fed to fury, sanguinary vandals in the bilious black of cities, ours reserved for sirens and disgust. You tell your rotten abacus of prayer, no rosary, my marbles of misdeed, each beady disappointment, each distended slight. Ask me again, am I happy? Am I pleased? Paranoia is an axe you grind on gluttony, gnashed your teeth to needles, chewed my fault to pulp. Fuck you. Your bats have become a mirror of meat, you Halloween Narcissus, you. I was never yours, no profile clipped in silhouette or subject of a song. I'm not your gaslit lily neck trembling its remedy. My fists are made from garlic bulbs. My only humor's winter air. Yeah, I was really getting into my feels with that one. So I live in South London and I don't love it. This poem is called To Live on Dread. My mind is a fucking scorpion orgy, coerced into cartwheel by lack of sleep. Sleazes and dealers for days, bruv. Be afraid, be very, very afraid. On the stroke of 10, then London becomes a flash mob made of malevolent exes, upskirting clerks in novelty ties, gym bunnies picking the Disney princesses that best represent them. It's Friday night and the gang's all here and you should make peace with your God. On the tram to New Addington, dickwit contingents are lisping their colony motto, fontanelles softened by a politician's kiss, white pride, white power, and the flower of English manhood. Baby doll dresses are heading to mass karaoke with extra Prosecco, to Chicken Wing and Bingo Hall, or slumped on the night bus to nowhere, a cut-price penal hell no traveller returns from. Be afraid, be very, very afraid. Fear is a chemical fetish here, an echo, a head rush, an apt dread of numbers, a rusty nail and a tabooed lust. My mind is the clock with a fire-gilded face. Attention's golden deficit is strained, is stretched, has been beset by the devil in diverse shapes and worse. The man who grabs at my pussy in parking garages. Race hate and face ache and gollywog jam. And I don't want to go back. To moon calves in shell suits peddling cretinous kiddie fuck. The National Front, horny on shore leave, brutalist stag dude twisting my arm till it cracks. I fear the grotesque English real, perturbed in my porcel degenerate bones. On the news is an April fool made flesh, competitive error, compulsive lie, pestilence and penetration, Hanna-Barbarians all. There's a head wound like a rooster's comb, middle-class courtesans stalled in a motorcade, wet links of shit falling out of a dog, a flick knife with my name on it. I've polished my mind like a five-pointed star and lived inside my most absolute name in a vegan extremist kingdom of one, a bare hard season clutching my keys. Social media is a tedious monologue of self-care, life coach mantras, spastic at yoga, an exceptional text event where no one is saved. Friday night and police are battening down their collective brain death, coming for us, breathing through their mouths. I live within the poem like some straight edge Walter Mitty, indicate my fussy hurt in airless rooms where daylight is entangled or revised. Poetry's a sow's ear whispered into service. We're working out our mutual purpose, dread and I, most conducive doom. What is missing is absent on purpose, the regular hole in a Chinese coin. It's back to the hyenas again. This is called The Striped Hyena's Laugh. You're wrong, of course. It does exist. Hyena deals in secrets, not in spectacles, won't show it to just anyone. You do not know what laughter is. The dream of a forest reduced to fidgets and to fragrance. A long, giddy falsetto stunt, the gimme motto of her colleagues know. Hyena's laugh is a fissure of limits, will twist her honeyed energies towards the keenest edge, the feculent mouth ploughed up. You mistake the geckering of telemarketers, all those toothy musketeers for laughter. What you call laughter is the frictionless pigeon of amateurs. It is ordered online and it ships worldwide in sealed air baggies, stagnant and extrovert. Hyena's laugh is the night condensed inside a hard blue marble. Yours is maverick toad work, a minister of state smarming in a headlock. It is a trick stomach, the gimmicked throat. Hyena laughs, but rarely. Her laughter is not summoned. It is swift and mute as vengeance, never conjured up by pratful cocktail, pungent jungle bud, by ridicule or tickle. Her laughter is nocturnal, skunk bulk gliding through underground cities, toting its prole melody. Hyena's laugh is not the rubberized whoopee of expelled air. It is a sudden glitch in her sloping form as she dips beneath the yardarm. It is often silent, a kind of presto, a kind of splayed cadabra. In its sudden flux, she has been known to turn textile, become a rush map flattened out for welcome. It has its citric hiss, its cynic frailty, dark adjuncts, but most of all, it is a kind of brackish hymn sung under the breath. No, it is not a chorus for skeletons and predators. It does not belong to your world of crocs and spoils the tottering sucker of cities, arts, council, funding. It is not a meat prescription, a kind of gargoyle propaganda. It is a subtle electricity, and you are its object. Like history, its origin is asking. Hyena will never laugh for you. Lets out her luscious amen to the wind alone. You do not know what laughter is. Hysterical triage, the gremlin usury of femi blondes, snob music, ligging a drink. Oh no. A laugh is a windfall of wild peaches, a wayward nature tuned toward mercy. And that is the penultimate poem. I'm going to read this last one, if that's okay. Still got time? Brill. I'm going to read this for Golnoosh. It's Hyena Q&A. And what's it like being a hyena? It is like withdrawal, trembling its traces all across the splendid belly of the night. It is ecstatic and mechanical, a kind of sanguinary prickling, to be made spectral with adrenaline, to stream raw light through your fiber optic veins. It is holding the ice of his name in my mouth until it cools, until, I mean, it thaws. How has being a hyena affected your employment prospects? Imagine having a club foot, except it isn't your foot, it's your whole body. Imagine a woman's face eaten away by radiation. That's how people look at you. A cheesy 50s pin-up, her thighs tempered with ugly, ragged holes. But do you work? I practice walking upright. I type with a hollow wand between my teeth, a tango dancer's wilting rose. Have hyenas many friends? Spotted hyenas travel in packs like non-league football supporters. A strand wolf is rarer, androgynous thicket, a sweating maze of hair. A strand wolf forms a band in college, is sad, stratospheric and doomed, likes to be looked at, never touched. The striped hyena is not musical, will wear a big-ass garland of garlic bulbs to keep at bay all vampires. Vampires. The opposite of hyena is not human. The opposite of hyena is a vampire. Does hyena ever take a lover? Thistles are not thorns. There is no thorn soup, just as there is no hyena love. Sex is a wet ghost, solicitous and pitiful, his thin mouth open like the meekest wound. There was a sweetheart once, exemplary gelatin, the sugared holes of her haunches dissolved in milky tea. What kind of answer is that? What would you have me say? There were dauntless boys doubly gone and a girl who spoke in the maudlin strophes, the briny savour of suicide. A hyena bears her own irreparable juju. A hyena is both the Jonah and the boat. Are you trying to tell me something? Yes, like Sappho. Are all hyenas lesbians? Some people have a way of saying lesbian, like a foot being stamped at a children's party. Your eyes are the most indiscriminate blue. like the faulty jizzing flames of an electrical fire. I do not desire you. I do not desire neither grunt and thrust nor coax and yearn. Picture Valerie Solana swooning in a field of wheat. You can't, can you? There is no thorn wine either. Does a hyena know when she will die? Yes, in the grime of twilight, fermenting a requiem among the rotten apples, they will build a shrine to me beside Camden Canal, but it will be inaccessible except by kayak. On the third day of my death, I will perform my first miracle. Does it bother you that you are such a tiresome person? On my way here, a line of gaunt yellow flowers, my crude little comrades who fizz with wiry life. Do they give a shit that people think they're weeds? But are you really a hyena? Listen, I have rubbed myself along the surface of the world. Extinction is a coal sawn into my belly. I put it there on purpose. A hyena is a punchline in search of a joke. Thanks. That's it.
Unmute yourself and make a I think in the history of Zoom poetry readings, this is surely a record breaker for the amount of quotes back to the poet in the chat. It's just, it's been popping off. It's been great. Thanks to all those who've been involved in that. And thank you, Fran. It's really great to have you at the 87 and a long time coming. Sadly, but not so sadly, because the next reader is going to be great. We have one poet left. Before I introduce Oscar, I just wanted to make you all aware of this genre-busting book that we've published of Oscar's. It's the first in a trilogy. The second installment will be out next year in 2022. I wanted to take the liberty of reading Juan Toledo's blurb for the book. Georges Louis Borges foretold that the literary works of the future would be determined by the kind of readers existing in years to come. The Argentinian master was right, judging by a book such as Night of the World. We all now seem to be citizens of a fragmented and perilous reality, trying to decipher the signs and logos that can help us to avoid an impending and colossal downfall. Oscar Guardiola-Rivera has written an Orwellian rhapsody which hardly could be more prescient. It is a marvelous and heterodox book that works as a rap poem of a ghost story, but also as a historical warning, as well as an essay on the value of the written word in a world where its images and the social and political upheavals they create are treated as mere symptoms. I'm going to stop that there, but if you want to know the rest, buy the book, which is on discount. Without further ado, Oscar Guardiola-Rivera is the author of 2 currently critically acclaimed books, because hopefully there will be a third. What If Latin America Ruled the World, Bloomsbury 2010, which was the winner of the Frantz Fanon Award, and Story of a Death Foretold, Bloomsbury 2013, shortlisted for the 2014 Bread and Roses Award. More recently, In Defense of Armed/Art Struggle, UTadeo 2019, and A Future for the Philosophy of Liberation in Decolonising Ethics from Pennsylvania University Press in 2020. Oscar is a professor at the University of London, a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. His Peace and War, Reformation, and the docu-video Art and Fire, A Journey in 5 Films are available through the Hay Festival Player. Take it away, Oscar.
Thank you, Assad. Let me just say what an honor it is to be in the company of such wonderful poets. It's been an amazing evening. My job is to send you off with a good night and into a worst nightmare. This is a 21st century journal of the year of plague. In the first years of the 21st century, before the Civil War, one by one, the southern states of the Union banned brown people from reading William Shakespeare's The Tempest, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and The Last Man. Not being allowed access to books, we began telling our stories to one another and to others. This too was prohibited, as brown peoples were told we were naturally impervious to culture and were thieves, rapists, and sinners who had stolen language from their masters. This is the world as you found it, ready-made, discovered, stitched up from 100 million corpses, plagued, and making itself. Fanon lamented, "Yesterday, awakening to the world, I saw the sky turn upon itself utterly and wholly. I wanted to rise, but the disemboweled silence fell back upon me, its wings paralyzed. Without responsibility, straddling nothingness and infinity, I began to weep." Notes on entry into the city of monsters. Those who take a downward turn, the victims of plague and disaster, those who were here when the killing fields opened their jaws and swallowed us whole, when the skies came crumbling down. Gaia has returned and she will no longer be put down. Then, enveloped in a downward continuum, become marked beings, monsters. Where she wrote monsters, he corrected, crossing over her word in the style used back in the century to save paper, and wrote beings. Whoever comes out wounded from a catastrophic event or from a life of suffering prompts the question, is she part or the cause of the current predicament? You have asked these yourself many times. Am I the sign of impending doom? By coming upon the scene as the carrier of a message, a harbinger of the end of days, the survivor, trickster, and custodian becomes the very embodiment of what is announced, and hence a monstrous being. Gordon and Gordon say, people often take the notion of a divine warning seriously, and in doing so, take the victim, the survivor, who could also be a victim by virtue of the memory and scars carried, or the witness of disaster, to be a kind of monster. Such is the first path into the city. Monstrum, from the Latin verb monere, meant to deliver a message, to warn or admonish. Warnings always come from above, where stars and planets share none place and forever time with gods, demigods, and demons who were many times thought of as stars and planets themselves. Seen from space, the Earth itself becomes a message. This has been proven by the testimonies of spacewalkers, in which the word fragile is repeated as a warning time and time again. Seen from space, the Earth itself becomes monstrous, a strange attractor. This has been proven by the fact that those who have contemplated it from afar immediately wish to kill themselves, to become one with the immense vacuum of outer space. They invariably lose their minds after the fact. Edward White floated in space for 20 minutes. Noticing that looked at from 120 miles away, the Earth seemed featureless, he refused to come back to the capsule that kept him alive. 2 years after his spacewalk, he died in a freak fire at Cape Canaveral. A few years later, his wife took her own life. Russian cosmonaut Alexei Leonov left Voskhod 2, jumping head-on into the eternal black sea of outer space. He remained there a mere 10 minutes, but he too refused to come back. Others who did come back, like Michael Collins, have refused to talk about what they saw. What did they see? Or was it something they heard, an incomprehensible voice perhaps? We comfort ourselves in the thought that our planet is a cradle of life, a benign being. What if we are wrong? What if the solitary traveler in the vast indifferent sea is in fact a monster? Perhaps the reason why astronauts, cosmonauts, and other spacewalkers did not wish to come back or say a word about it is because the planet reclaimed them, like a jealous mother who would go to any length to stop her daughter from leaving her side, even denouncing her before the authorities as a foreign terrorist or an alien invader or a witch, learned in astrology and the black arts. The jinn. In accordance with the Muslim tradition, Allah created something other than angels and humans. He created the jinn. Angels were made of light. Humans were made out of mud. But the jinn were made of black smokeless fire and the black cold water of the far away ice seas which burns the skin. They were made thousands of years before the first man walked the earth, hundreds of thousands before the first man walked into outer space. Al-Qaswini says, the jinn are aerial animals and with transparent bodies which can assume a variety of forms. Borges adds that they may show themselves as clouds or as huge and defined pillars, but when their form becomes condensed, they become visible, perhaps in the bulk of a man. He is citing English Orientalist Edward Lane, who writes that when the jinn take the shape of animals or human beings, they are sometimes of an enormously gigantic size. They are also said to become invisible at pleasure by a rapid extension or rarefaction of the particles which compose them, when they may disappear into the air or earth or through a solid wall. Crucially, for both the Arabs and the Egyptians, the pillar-like whirlwinds of sand raised in the desert are caused by the flight of an evil genie. In saying this, they observe no superstition, rather, not only the fact that some terrain and subterranean events are intimately linked to those above the ground, like sand and sea storms, violent gusts, or winds seemingly coming out of nowhere, but also attend to something much more significant about the nature of disasters. This is the fact that in the Muslim tradition, the apocalypse is not some moment when history is abolished and in accordance with the accumulated weight of our good and evil deeds, we arrive at some or other destination. Instead, following a much older Egyptian tradition, apocalypse for the Muslim is not a when, but rather the event that attests to the immensity of the ultimate act of giving. This means that everything that exists of time and within it cannot stop, defer, or foreclose time, because such is the gift of Allah, which cannot be appropriated or exhausted by human want or desire. Thus, to fabricate a different future, you, woman, you, hoodoo, you, girl, you, hoodoo, girl, must work against given time. Time, the time of the cosmos, the stars, and the planets, is a variation of the infinite, the inaccessible, and the unknown. In the infinity of time, we humans confront a cosmos that is profoundly non-human and responsive to will, our wishes, or needs. Here, we come to realize that there is another level of reality and possibility, another path, exemplified by the planet as such when looked at from outer space, which is truly hidden from us, impervious to assimilation by either religion or science. Horror is the affect that accompanies such realization. It is embodied in the jinn and expressed in their ambiguous nature. Reading books such as the ones mentioned above, you have learned that there are good jinn and evil jinn, male jinn and female jinn, and everything in between, false believers and true unbelievers, visible and invisible jinn. There are jinn who can attain the lower heavens, where they overhear the conversations of angels about future events, as Borges explains, and can be of much help to seers, witches, and magi. You often listen to the talk, careful not to be noticed. At first, their voices sounded to you like shrieking noises, unintelligible to the human ear, like radio static or the music of a speed prog band, the James Dean. Later on, you began making sense of their chatter. That was around the same time when the frontman of the James Dean committed suicide live on stage during a rendition of their hit song, The Garden. But they may also be lying. Their lies just an analogy of the not yet future. They may grant you a wish if you free them from whatever prison Allah the Merciful may have chosen for them. Often a bottle found at sea, in a cave, a well, a river, an uninhabited house, or a crossroads. But if you do ask to be granted a wish, they will hold you in their debt, an eternal and unpayable debt. The sort of cosmic debt that Gaul jinn attempt to collect by feeding like hyenas upon the living and the dead. The word genius has been associated with the name of these giants, like the words Indian or Negro. It is no more than a navigational error, a misunderstanding, or a result of idiomatic coincidence, for the Latin term genius means to beget, as in bringing into existence something out of nothing, as in the granting of a wish, but also crucially as in the term war begets more war, or money begets money. These are examples of infinity gone wrong, a time warp caught inside a loop. The monstrous idea that time will return in the self-same numerical order and that change is no more than a well-concocted and convenient human illusion. Such is the viewpoint embodied by many of the jinn portrayed in recent literature, in the writings of Kantians and Quinians, or in the character fittingly named Dr. Manhattan. Gabriel Garcia Marquez wrote Nothing Ever Happens in Macondo, and Julio Cortázar came up with the story of a man who listens to a telephone conversation in modern Paris, while at the same time he witnesses the devastation of ancient Rome by means of fire. In Tomás Eloy Martínez's Purgatory, Simón Cardoso, who has been dead for some 30 years, waits until the wheel of time completes its turn in order to re-enter our timeline in the lounge bar of Trudy Tuesday in New Jersey. It is said that the circle of time is red and that its entrance is concealed in the depths of hell. Some refer to it as the eternal noon, a landscape made of time where all past, the not yet, and the future exist together, and the sun itself burns without intermission. We call it the garden. The garden is referred to in a handful of grimoires, composed by the most obscure and wisest among the palabreros, the philosophers, and the magi. Sometimes it is depicted as a circumference touched by a tangent that extends off the edges of the page, a fons perdu. The circle represents time constantly revolving, and the point of contact with the tangent is the unmoving present. Our gaze tends to focus on that which moves, but if for a moment we were to stop and fixate on the present, noon would be eternal. That is why the creature in Mary Shelley's tale flees north. He is searching for the land of eternal noon. That is why the Yanomamo moved. They were searching for the land without evil. The creature in Mary Shelley's tale is looking for the entrance to the garden. Like the jinn, the creature is also a being released from the normal constraints of matter and time, since he was put together out of source materials that had already died and thus overcome the boundary between the animate and the inanimate. He did not end, for if something ends, it is not eternal. It is really all a matter of maths and geometry. The creature skate along the tangent like you. Montashed self. The creature wanted to shed its montaged self made out of parts sliced out of others. Such is the third path into the city of monsters, which both contains and sublates the previous two. Monsters are lyrical essays, mirroring the world not as it appears to us, but revealing only its hiddenness and darkness. The monster isn't a slave marked by a skin color or a montaged body. In the past, these features of birth always proved insufficient. Enslaved people, us, were branded in the United States. Jews, gypsies, communists, blacks, and homosexuals were rounded in concentration camps in Germany, together with Latinos and others in post-Brexit Britain. Women and Moors were burnt in the stake during the autos de fe in Portugal, the Americas, and Spain. Palestinians were starved and choked to death in the occupied territories. Greeks were pushed to commit mass suicide during the breakup of the Union. All of them, all of us, were tattooed. In your present, the grammar of branding has been sustained by denying people access to language and grammar. No, the monster isn't a slave marked by skin color. She's a sequence. Good night.
Please make some noise for Oscar Guardiola-Rivera. Thank you all. Thank you to all 7 of our poets for wonderful, haunting, mesmeric readings that are going to stay with us over the course of the coming months. Before we go, please reserve in your diaries if you would like to, and if you're able to, the 18th of February, when we will be graced by the presence of Nat Raha, Rishi Dastadar, Danny Haywood, Verity Spot, Kat Sinclair, and Jacqueline Frost. There will be a name for that event shortly in the coming weeks, so keep an eye peeled on our socials. And yeah, let's unmute and shout or clap for all 7 of the poets, please. And thank you all for coming. It's really great to host you all.
Thank you all. Marvelous.